Dylan Mulvaney will never drive to a gas station and wonder if it's safe to get out of the car. Dylan Mulvaney will never know what it's like to go on a run at night and wonder if you're not going to come back to your house.
Our struggles are more connected than you may imagine. I'm so used to processing my dehumanization that in all reality, it actually kind of creates this like perfect storm for abusive, hurtful people. And the thing that I think a lot of cis women who say things like this don't get is that our abusers are the same people. You may think that like, oh, this is like some special LGBT abuser who doesn't, do this to cis women. But quite literally, they are often the same people. The difference is they feel like they can get away with more because we live in a society that dehumanizes transgender women to such an extreme degree. If he knows I'm trans, he's going to kill me. If I don't comply, he's also going to probably kill me. And then people are going to defend it because they know that I'm trans, right? Anyway, I just wanted to talk about that because it is really frustrating for me because as a survivor, these conversations are made more complicated by people saying things like this. So many people turn a blind eye to sexual violence when it happens to transgender women. Let's talk about this because this is something that I didn't really get into, and this is something that I actually experienced a few times. When Ron Jeremy sexually assaulted me, one of the things that he did was try to finger me. And when he tried to finger me, that was when I told him that I was trans. Mind you, Ron Jeremy assaulted me literally within the same conversation as me saying hello. I hugged him, he forced me to touch him, then he tried to touch me, right? And I've already been over this, but like he acted that way because people in that particular bar kind of let him do it. Oh, that's just Ron, he's just a horny old man or whatever. But one of the things that did happen is as he was trying to finger me, I told him that I was trans, and he kept like fingering around to kind of like see if I was lying to him. And he actually thought like, that I was lying to him. And he started like, specifically labeling parts of the vagina and saying, oh, that's not the this, that's not the that, da 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 da. And I'm like, no, please stop touching me. And did he walk away? Yeah, he did. He did walk away, actually. He did actually walk away and realize that he was assaulting a transgender person and he didn't want to keep doing that. Now, that wasn't actually the last time he sexually assaulted me, but that was one of the only times in my entire life where a man was sexually assaulting me and then he stopped because I was trans. But every other situation I've been in, it really hasn't gone that way. Like, the kind of men who are cornering you to assault you are already violent. They're already violent, right? And what I've experienced more often than not is that men will assault me before we even have that conversation at all, right? There have been so many times, and I say this because, I know that when I say there's so many times I've been sexually assaulted, there are people who hear that and they think, oh, what are you doing in order to be sexually assaulted so much? Part of me being groomed and raped as a child fucked up a lot of my boundaries around men. And unfortunately, throughout my life, I have had to sort of, exist in a certain way where placating to men was very important to my survival, right? And so I've been in more than a few situations where men have sexually assaulted me and I'm not saying anything because I'm trying to survive, right? Whole other conversation. But there are so many times where men will be sexually assaulting me and not even have that conversation with me about me being transgender. Ron Jeremy walking away from me is the only time I've really ever experienced that. Most of the other times, the conversation was absolutely never had. And as a trans woman, the thing that I'm always terrified of is if I tell him that I'm transgender and he is already sexually assaulting me, he may feel like I tricked him. And we live in a society that is eager to tell men that that is a thing that happens, right? That transgender women are tricking men. Of course, the way that we trick men is by existing as feminine people who they're attracted to. And because we live in a patriarchy, men feel entitled to our bodies. They feel entitled to our sex, right? And so they do what they do without asking, without checking, without probably even caring. And there's been a lot of times, and I'm sorry if this is triggering to people, but there's been a lot of times where a man is sexually assaulting me, and I go along with it because I know that if he figured out I was trans, he might kill me, right? Because I'm already afraid to say no. I'm even more afraid to say I'm transgender. And one of the only reasons why I said it to Ron Jeremy is because I was waiting for my Uber. Because that's what happened. I was at, if you know the bar, I won't mention the name, but if you know the bar, you get kind of the environment. I was at the front of the gate, waiting for my Uber. He was on the patio with me. We were the only two people there. If my Uber wasn't coming, I probably would not, maybe it would have been a different situation. But because my Uber was coming, it was what it was, right? I knew that, long story short, a car was about to pull up and I could just jump into that car and get out, right? But there have been so many times where I've let men assault me because if they figured out that I was trans, I fear that they're going to actually also kill me. Because a man who's sexually assaulting you is already being violent. And we live in a society that always believes that when men kill transgender women, it's because we tricked them, because we misled them, because we were dishonest to them. I wish people understood that transgender women deal with street harassment, they deal with misogyny, they deal with sexual violence. And the difference is we don't really live in a society where people understand that transgender women are vulnerable at all. When I told people that I was sexually assaulted the second time in my life, raped the second time in my life, rather, the two people I talked to basically said to me, "What did you expect?" Too many people think that sexual violence is like a consequence of being transgender. Like, if I'm going to be feminine, I should just accept that people are going to rape and abuse me. And I really think that some people would benefit greatly from unpacking that. Why do you feel that way? Why are we accepting this idea that women should just accept this shit, right? Because that's kind of what you're saying to me, right? I should be okay with being assaulted because I'm feminine and because I'm a woman. No, I shouldn't. Absolutely not. But a lot of times the people who say this stuff to you will be women, right? It'll be cis women who will say like, "Oh, well, welcome to womanhood." Well, there's been so many times where I've spoken about being assaulted, being catcalled, being harassed, and I've openly spoken about it. And a cis woman has come and said, "Welcome to womanhood. Welcome to womanhood." I'm 33 years old. I transitioned as a teenager. I've been sexually assaulted and raped throughout my fucking life. Welcome to womanhood. If I'm validating my womanhood by how many times I've been assaulted, I'm hella woman then. We shouldn't be accepting that as a consequence of being a woman in this world. And I want for more people to think about that.